Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns for day 18 of Around the League in 30 days. As we stop in Minnesota to check on the Twins after falling off an absolute cliff last year to miss the playoffs, to, of course, the Gritty Tigers and Co. and the Guardians and the Royals and all those other teams. We
I was
finally
gonna say
have.
they didn't win the division, buddy.
No, I know. That's what I'm
They
saying.
might be gritty, but they didn't win the tie. They
But
didn't win the Central.
out of all the teams that people thought were going to make the playoffs out of that division, the Twins were the one team they actually ended up missing. But regardless, we had the whole crew back today. Bobby behind the what am I trying to say? Behind the desk
On the
again.
keys,
He's
behind the
producing
desk,
again.
under the
Whatever you want to
desk.
say.
Point is, I'm
Okay.
in the closet.
bitches. I
Ugh.
kicked him out of the spot.
Okay, yeah, absolute underwater just
Yeah.
happened right there. Let's look at that projected lineup for the Twins in 2025. Matt Wallner leading it off in right field. Big hopes for him coming up. Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton. Can they stay healthy and continue?
No.
Okay, and then we're getting to
Moving
that.
on.
Relax.
No.
Don't start cutting me
Then
off
why
already.
did you ask the question?
No, this is how we do the show, my boy.
Yeah, we just answered it. No.
My favorite player who is as good as Aaron Judge, Royce Lewis at third base, another guy who's consistently
Good for
injured,
20 days.
but hits absolute nukes. Ryan Jeffers behind the disc. Ty France comes in at first base. Harrison Bader on the bench is the other acquisition for them the offseason. And at that 9 spot, Brooks Lee, one of their top prospects for a while. We'll see if he can take the next step. Looking at their starting rotation, not a damn thing changed from the rotation, but they do add Danny who?
Coulomb.
Colombo to the bullpen. Johan Duran back in there as well, looking to have a somewhat of a bounce back season. And I have a little bit of beef with him, which I won't get into now, maybe later. But it has to do with MLB The Show, and that's why.
Oh my God!
I was gonna hate
Well,
me for that, so I'm not bringing it up now.
Before you eat your beef, I just want to say that Danny Coulomb has the best entrance music for a relief pitcher. He has Dance Mode
Edwin
from
Diaz is right there.
Yeah,
No,
dude,
Dance Mode from Bluey is the best song to walk into.
My whole personality is Edwin Diaz's entrance. I'll get absolutely turned to that song.
Yeah, he's hurt just like you missed school. Oh,
Okay, wow.
Wow, that's a deep cut.
And with that, we are gonna get into the headlines for the Twins heading into the new season. And first thing to start off with is not many moves for the Twins this offseason, but was that the right thing to do? Again, they bring in Bader, they bring in Ty France on the offense, so some additions there really didn't address the starting pitching. So Will, I mean, they kind of fell off a cliff in the second half. Was this the right move to stick with what they got?
No, but I mean, it's not like they're going to be completely out of it. They were a playoff team with what they have right now, for the most part, or about 2/3 of last season, and then things really started to get questionable. I mean, it was the offense that what really fell apart in the second half, because they were honestly within the top 10 in a lot of major categories, like home runs, runs scored, and average in the first half. And then in the second half, they were in the bottom half or bottom third in baseball. Injuries obviously played a huge factor in that, but when you have players like Buxton and Correa, it's going to happen. So they just didn't have the depth behind it to make up for it. And I don't think this year really it's going to get that much better. Yes, they can potentially get back to an 87 win team that might be enough to sneak into a wild card spot. But this team just seems, whether it's the fact that ownership doesn't want to spend any money or they have way too much faith in the youngsters on this team that really aren't as young anymore, this team seems like it's bound to go back to that like high 70s win total that it had for 2021 and 2022.
John,
that was good enough to win the division then.
It was, but John, I mean, we're seeing that, the Twins have always been a not a big spender, but they seen everybody in their division last year really step up. So are you surprised that they didn't really make as many moves as they could have?
I think they're going into this regarding their pitching. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Uh, but if they're going into, but with their offense, they really need to fix that, and they didn't really address it. I want to go back to what Will said earlier of they were a playoff team the year before. They were a playoff team by default, in all honesty, because everybody else kind of took a step back in 2023, and they just happened to have a winning record, if we're being honest. So, but I pulled up some stats here, boys, looking at not just the first half and the second half, because obviously in the second half we all know that they fell off a cliff with their team batting average in the second half being 19 points lower than the first half. Their slugging percentage significantly lower, 386 compared to 428, and their OPS at 751 in the first half and 690 in the second half. I wanted to see how they did on the road compared to home, and their road stats are significantly less than their home stats. Their batting average for the team, again, 9 points lower. Excuse me, 19 points lower. Sorry. Then you have their slugging percentage 385 versus 437, and their OPS 765 at home, away 688. And here's the thing: is that you got to be able to win on the road. And when you're in the AL Central, you have to be able to compete in these other ballparks, such as Cleveland with that big wall, or such as Detroit with those gritty Tigers, or hell, even in Kansas City with Bobby Witt Jr. and the up and coming Kansas City
Fear the fountain.
Royals. Yeah, well,
Fear the
listen, maybe,
fountain.
I guess Byron Buxton got a little wet in center field. Okay, but because listen,
Nice.
yeah, he got a little wet out there. Okay,
Oh, goodness
because
gracious.
they did not perform well on the road, guys, and I think that was their true downfall. Was it just these splits here are so significant? They have to cover that and meet somewhere in the middle if they're going to be competitive within this division.
What exactly were the win-loss totals when they were home and away?
All right, so
I can't get over Fear the Fountain. I don't know why that got me, but that's so good. Fear the Fountain.
Fear the fountain.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I hate it. I hate everything. I just want you guys to know that.
I want that
I'll
as a
have-
new T-shirt. That's the next
I will-
T-shirt on our list.
Fear
Oh
the
my God.
Fountain.
You got those
I
stats
will-
for us, John?
I will have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Well, I do want to bring up the fact that, you know, they did really fall in the second half. They absolutely collapsed, and there was definitely questions about the clubhouse, the manager, if Rocco was doing a good enough job. Do you think, Will, that played like an effect on their second half? Was that like turmoil? Also, are you surprised that he came back? Because I was a little bit surprised after what happened last year.
I tried to find an article that could back up what my memory was, and I couldn't find anything. So either I had bad luck in researching, or the internet was purged by the Minnesota Twins. But
Yeah, probably a little
I mean,
bit
I
both.
absolutely think that if there's any type of ongoing drama, it can absolutely change the morale within a clubhouse and be a huge factor. I think if you're going to say a team can do amazing things because everyone's clicking, you can definitely say the opposite if everyone hates one another. And yes, I am a little surprised that Baldelli did return. I don't remember 100% what things were like before this past season. And I mean, they did make the postseason the year before, so maybe they were just kind of tacking it off as things maybe were a little tense at times, but injuries were the biggest reason they felt they didn't make it. When they don't make the postseason this year, then he'll need a new job.
Yeah, well, I think there's, I think, a John Boy video, maybe. I can't remember, but There was turmoil within like the dugout after something. I think there was a press conference where he had come out and basically blamed the team for, the collapse and stuff like that. And I really didn't think he was going to survive it, especially with how they ended the year. I mean, the Tigers were so far behind them, and for them to catch them, um,
Javier Baez magic.
yeah, Javier,
More
exactly.
like actually bad juju that was, purged from the clubhouse.
I mean, I really thought, it's like, wow, like after all this, I don't know if he's coming back, but he's here. And I am a little bit surprised about the projections, which we'll get into later. But Will, you did mention about the injuries. John, I think it's kind of the same story, which sucks, especially for like a guy like Byron Buxton, who it's like he's got all his potential, and every year it's, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? What can he do? And you had
Can he
injuries.
not in the outfield?
Yeah, what can Correa do? Royce Lewis, like, are they? I'm not gonna have you predict injuries, even though you tried to with AI earlier, but but I mean, can they stay healthy this season? And if they do stay healthy, what is their ceiling?
Can they stay healthy? No. Will they stay
Eh,
healthy? No.
yeah.
Look, here's the reality. The trend here for Buxton alone, okay? Just because I have him up. Uh he played 61 games in 2021, 2022, 92 games, 2023, 85 games, and 102 games in 2024. That is not a complete season for 4 straight years. I have no
But he's
faith that
trending up.
I guess he is trending up, but that I still have no faith that he will have a complete season of at least 155 games this season. Carlos Correa, he's on the downward trend in terms of games. 148 in 2021, 136 in 2022, 135 in 2023, and then 86 last year. Look, here's the reality of the situation. The Twins have these stars and Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, and you could even throw Pablo Lopez in there.
Pablo.
When only one out of those four stars is somewhat reliable, that's not a recipe for success. And Will, going back to your question, the Twins last year had a home record of 44 and 37. On the road, they had a record of 39 and 42.
Yeah, because I mean that's not as far off as I thought. I mean, it's kind of
No,
like
but it
what I.
still
Well, no. What I'm
shows.
getting at is, what's kind of said as true both for home and road records and for when you're facing non-playoff teams and playoff teams is you want to do 500 against on the road or 500 against good teams and then win a lot of your games at home uh or against the bad teams. And so the Twins, you throw a few wins around that maybe brings it up to 86. They didn't really win too many at home, so may not have been
Yeah, they
enough
didn't
in
either.
the end. But but yeah, that's kind of the recipe that you should at least try to strive for to get some success.
Yeah, I worry about, because the other thing I worry about is if they do have injuries this year, they just don't have the depth that they had in years past.
Nope.
Um, so that's kind of the scary part for them, right? Like if they lose, yeah, they in the outfield. I mean, they have Bader who can come in. They have Julian on the bench, but it's not as in depth as you wanted to. I think they had they have two top prospects. I think one is the third in baseball, and I'm forgetting his name right now. And another one who is like top 50, who might be coming in this year. So I guess they do have some um protection in AAA, that they can, maybe those guys can come up and be, players for them. But that's all I'm concerned about with them. And again, I am a little bit surprised with how people are kind of ranking them. Before we get into that, let's talk about Pablo Lopez, and let's also set an over/under of how many times I'm gonna mix it up with Pablo Sanchez, because I almost did it already if I didn't just look at his name right now. Um, but Pablo Lopez has been pretty good in his career. I think if you're the Twins, you need to look at him to step up, and Will, can he be the guy that steps up and is the ace for the Twins?
Not for a full season. The end. No. You get one word answers from me. I don't want to talk about the Twins. No.
Nobody
like
wants to
to
talk about the
refer-
Twins. They're not the juicy story today.
I like to refer to myself as a Pablo Lopez hater. I don't think he's a terrible pitcher, but I don't think. But it feels like to me he gets thrown around as like top 10 in baseball sometimes, like going into the year, and I'm just like, have you looked at his stats? Like, he's not a bad pitcher. He's definitely a number 2 pitcher at his best, but he's more often a 3 and sometimes even a 4. His main problem is he cannot be effective for an entire season. Going back to 2021, there's only been really one season he was consistent all the way through, and that was in 2023. But when you look at his first and second half splits, in 2021, he had a 2.34 ERA in the first half, 4.34 in the second half. 2022, 2.86 in the first half, 4.97 in the second. In 23, it was 3.89 in the first and 3.36 in the second. I wouldn't consider that still ace stuff, but I would say number 2 in a rotation. So that was very good and at least promising. Last year, he had a 5.11 ERA in the first half, but then 2.77 in the second half. Like, that's too drastic for you to for your numbers to be if you want to be the top of the rotation guy. And he's been around now for 6 years or something. So like, I feel fairly content that that's just the player you get, and you're gonna have some high highs, but it's also some really low lows, and it's not what you need to lead a rotation.
Yeah, looking at their staff last year as a whole, they were relatively healthy. They lost Joe Ryan for a little bit of the season. I think he was out from about the beginning of August to the rest of the season. But other than that, their other guys stayed pretty healthy. I mean, you had 178 innings from Ober, 185 from Sanchez. Um, yeah, I mean, there wasn't too much in the way of injuries. I guess the other name you could really say in that conversation for ace for the Twins is Joe Ryan. But John, I mean, you look at this team, their pitching is, I think, better than people maybe think. I mean, they have a lot of guys under, that are or around that 4 ERA, a couple guys under. Their bullpen struggled at times last year, but yeah, I mean, looking at Lopez or Ryan, like, who do you think out of those two can step up and be their ace? Because Ryan has showed promise too.
Well, I can tell you right now, I don't think that it's Pablo Lopez. I agree with Will. I think that he's more so I think a 3 or 4, maybe a second on depending on the rotation. Is a good it's a good summary of what um who he is, in all honesty. When it when it comes down to it, because looking at his months breakdown, his strikeouts strikeouts to walks stat here, it it just gets really messy in the later months, and it goes up really steady, and I don't like that. So in July, you have a 440 in August, and then 425 in September and October, uh, with only pitching 5 games, and it's not. I'm just not a fan of that, in all honesty, when it comes to my ace. So I th- I think maybe the best answer would be go with Joe Ryan, but I don't know.
I mean,
I think the Twins are kind of up a creek here. I think when it comes down to it, a lot of what they have is mediocrity, and that just seems to be the trend across baseball. In all honesty, Ty.
I mean, look, the one thing that he gives you, which I don't know if you want to say this with ace stuff, but he is dependable. I mean, in his 2 years there, he's pitched over 180 innings both years. Had a 3.66 in 2023, 4.08 in 24. So, I think he has a chance to step up. But I think if you're the Twins, you if you want to I think really for the Twins at this point, they were ahead for so long, right? And I think now that you look at these other teams around the Central, it's like they almost feel like they're a step behind. So they need a guy to kind of step up and be that leader in the rotation. And I think you need it from either Ryan or Lopez because,
I think I think you're right in that sense because I think they rested on their laurels. I don't
yeah,
think either one is truly an ace or has ace potential. I mean, the batting average against Joe Ryan is better than Pablo Lopez, especially in the second half of last season, with a 189. That's good in Ryan's favor here. But honestly, neither one says ace to me.
yeah, and I don't know if that's
Joe
like
Ryan's the closest.
I also
I agree with you. I think on a good rotation in a good rotation, he would be number two and Lopez would be your number three, and those would be their solid spots. I think it's a reach putting Ryan at one and Lopez at two. So
No, I don't think the team truly has an ace. I think they have two guys that can perform well, but Ryan's the one to me that is young enough. He just needs to have another full season under his belt where you can see if those numbers continue to trend down closer to three, or if he kind of is settling in the mid to upper threes, kind of like Lopez has been in his career. And then
I,
that's where you kind of decide if you have that ace or if you need to bring someone else in.
like I said,
100%
I
agree.
just feel like they're a step behind, right? Because again, you look around the division, the Tigers have the maybe best pitcher in baseball and Tarek Skubal. They have Flaherty. The Royals have Reagans, Lugo, Waka. Um,
Waka
the
Twins
Waka.
don't have anybody.
the Guardians, I mean, you can say what you want about them. Like they don't have like I
They
guess
have the
I mean
bullpen to make up
I
for it.
mean Bieber is there, but what is he gonna be after Tommy John? But then it's just like to me, it feels like their top end starting rotation lacks compared to the other teams. And maybe that, they have that consistency in their 3-4-5 where it kind of makes up for it. But that's where I would kind of be worried, I think, if I am the Twins because good pitching can erase some of the inconsistency in offenses and especially like when you're going through the injury problems that they had. But again, somebody needs to be able to step up for them. Last thing I do want to touch on here is are the Twins a playoff team in 2025 or are they declining? I do find it pretty hilarious that our good pals over at Pacoda actually have them winning the Central, which is not that crazy, I guess, but they have them winning it by like 6 games, which is kind of wild. So,
The win total is just atrocious.
yeah. So, Will, I mean,
87 wins.
in a division that got so much better last year, are the Twins declining or are they destined for another playoff spot this season?
They're declining, and they would be lucky to even reach 80 wins this season.
Because of the offense, pitching, both.
I think every factor right now. I don't think the pitching is going to get that much better. I don't think your offense is going to stay healthy enough to be effective. And once those injuries start hitting, the backup depth is not going to be that favorable. And the division has gotten better while they have stayed stagnant. They're just going to get worse. They only had 82 wins last year, and I see them being a few games worse.
What about you, John? What do you think?
I 100% agree with Will. I think that the Twins last year were very much a feast or famine team. And when I say that, I mean on offense, they were home runs or bust. And that was their offense. And the high batting average projections here, I don't buy I don't buy that. Especially with these 21 and 24 and 26 home run hitters, especially with that being Byron Buxton. I don't think that he's even going to finish the season based on his trends here. So the reality of the situation here is they rested on their laurels and they don't want to fix it. So they just want to be in the middle, and that's exactly where they're going to be. Going to be 3-4 for the next, I don't know, probably 5 years.
The Twins are a team that have for the last X years seemed to be very reliable on the home run ball, and that was something that was really lacking last year. And I don't, and I mean, if you're not going to really do anything to kind of fix what you didn't have last year. I mean, I understand that like Royce Lewis is probably your best home run hitter, and he only played in about 82 games. But yeah, that's the most he's played in his 3 stints in the majors so far. So is he the next person that's really going to be? It's going to be too much to see if he can play over 100 games consistently. And Buxton, if he can reach 81 games, that's a lot. And it seems like even if that's the case, you might get 20 home runs from him. And so the team just, I don't think they have an identity.
Look, I will.
He is going to be a big what if, Byron
Yeah.
Buxton.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, he's entering his age 31 season, I believe, 30 season. So it's like there is some intrigue to the Twins. There really is, but it's always, I think, been an injury issue. And again, yeah, like Buxton in 2017 played 140 games, and last year playing 102 games. So this is only 2 seasons with over 100 games. Like it's really really crazy because when he's on the field, he is a really good talent, but we just don't see
He's
him enough on
arguably
the
the best
field.
player on the field.
For the absolutely for the Twins. So it kind of sucks, man. Like I want to see him healthy. I think for Royce Lewis again. I think I do really believe he has superstar potential, but he's got to play. He's got to be on the field for that to happen. I mean, last year
The
he got
Twins
injured
wish
after
they
the
could have
first game.
7 DH. The Twins
Yeah.
wish they could have 7 DH roles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and clear up all those injuries. But yeah, that is all for the Minnesota Twins here in day 18 of Around the League in 30 days. You can follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns, Big League Breakdowns everywhere else. Next on episode 19, we will be stopping in Flushing to check in on the Mets. But until then, we will see you next time.
Buckle up, baby. We're going to New York. Wear your seatbelt, huh?
God, I want to
What
throw
in
up.